Hi, I'm Stephanie Meisel, and for my presentation I am doing coastal erosion, and the title is Coastal Erosion, a Cause and Effect Analysis. There we go. Alright, there are three basic coastal processes. There's erosion, which we're going to discuss in this presentation. There's transportation, which is the movement of material along the shore and out to sea. And there's deposition, which is once the material is transported, it's pretty much where the material gets laid down or gets replenished. The coastline will get replenished. Okay, a little bit of background about coastlines. U.S. coastal counties make up 17% of the total land area of the United States. And coastal counties also make up 53% of the population, the total population of the United States. So more than half of the people in the United States live on the coast, which could be a bad thing, like we experienced with Hurricane Sandy. How many people got devastated living on the coast? And according to NOAA, the official total length of the United States coastline equals 95,471 miles. So almost 100,000 miles of coastline. Is the United States. Okay, so this presentation is about erosion. So a definition of erosion is a natural process that breaks down surface material, which is then moved from one location to another. It's a pretty simple concept, one would think. There are many processes that cause erosion. There's natural factors and human factors. Some natural factors are wind. The material is, the wind picks up the material from the coastline. You have storm surge. Huge waves come in and eat away at the coastline. Along with storm surge is waves, and in a minute I'll explain there are other natural processes that go along with waves. I'll explain in a minute. Then you have tides and currents. Pretty much also, take the material off the coastline. And you have something called water seepage, which the water gets into the material, which can cause landslide, that's mass erosion. So I'm going to go a couple slides for a minute right here. And so these processes of erosion pretty much go with, these weathering processes go with waves. You have abrasion, which is the waves pick up the material and then hurl it against itself or against cliffs, which causes material to break off. And then you have hydraulic action, which is the water from the waves get into cracks. And then when the water retreats from these cracks, it causes material to break away. You have attrition, which is the waves causing material to bump up against each other, causing material to break away. And then you have corrosion or solution, which is pretty much the water, the acidity of the water eats away and dissolves material, and which also causes erosion. So these are natural processes caused by waves. And then you have biological factors also, and environmental factors, rain and all that stuff. Let me go back. Okay, so now Those were the natural factors of erosion. Now we're going to talk about the human factors of erosion, which I have a picture here. Here we go. Here's some here's some human factors of erosion. We have dams. Then you have coastal infrastructure such as seawalls and jetties. You have mining, which you see in the picture there. And then you have river modification. And on removal of vegetation. And all these cause erosion, which I will talk about in a little while. But first, to understand these natural processes, you need to understand the physical parameters. So first, you need to understand the coastal geomorphology, which is the coastline type and its sensitivity to processes. So then and then we discussed about wind. Wind is the main force for waves, which move sediment along along the coast. Waves introduce energy to the coast, and currents. So then the currents move sediment along the shore. We talked about tides. Tides influence beach morphodynamics, the changing of the coastlines. And tides, they modulate the wave action. And then we have vegetation, which affects the slope stability which influences the slope stability, and it also vegetation also protects the shore. It absorbs all the energy from these waves, which help prevent the erosion. So here, now this chart lays out the natural and human factors and how long it takes, how long erosion takes. So let's talk about the human activities based on spatial and time scale. So we have activities along the shores, jetties, seawalls. Pretty much destroy the coastline in 5 to 10 years. They pretty much shorten the beach. Then we have those are seawalls. Jetties cause erosion downdrift from the beach, and that's also 5 to 10 years destruction. Vegetation clearing causes low energy environment, changes to a high energy environment, since the vegetation isn't there to slow down the erosion. So this reduces the sediment stability, and this also destroys the coastline within 5 to 10 years. Activities to rivers and watersheds. These reduce the sediment supply to the coast. These activities, and in 20 to 100 years, it destroys the coast from about 1 mile or 1 kilometer to 100 kilometers away. So we discussed like river modification. That's one thing changing the river channel could reduce sediment to the coastline, or dams. Dams is another good activity that would cause the reducing of sediment to the coastline. Sand and coral mining, that also causes a sediment deficit. So as the coastline naturally erodes, the more mining of coral and sand gives us less of a supply to put back on the coast. And then you have modification of the water levels. You have global warming. Rise in sea level. That, along with the mining of the sand and coral, can destroy a coastline from between 1 to 10 years. So now we're going to discuss coastline types. There are 5 coastline types, basic types. You have cliff, clayey bank, intertidal muddy, sand dune, and sandy coastlines. So let's discuss cliff coastlines. Cliff coastlines are considered a hard coastline made up of sedimentary and volcanic material. They have a short shore platform, and they're and obviously it's a cliff, so it's a steep slope. So the slope is unstable, and so weathering and wave action is what's the main cause of erosion with cliffs. Especially at low tide. So when we have extreme wave action, it causes less of an effect. So clayey bank coastline. This is considered a semi-hard coastline. It's made up of cohesive soils. Obviously, it's made up of clay. These are pretty much like estuarian coastlines. They have vertical banks. These experience a high rate of erosion compared to a hard coastline like a cliff. Types the coastal processes we discussed earlier. The wave action. All the weathering. Also, loss of vegetation. That's a big one, because since these are mostly estuarian, so you have loss of wetlands along the coast. That's what causes erosion of these coastlines. In extreme events, hurricanes, tsunamis, large storms, the vegetation cover is very important, because it protects everything behind the vegetation from getting flooded. The vegetation absorbs all that energy. And it reduces, since it absorbs all the energy, it reduces the wave height and the wave speed. So vegetarian cover is very important to these types of coastlines. So the intertidal muddy coastlines, as you see in the picture, mangroves, salt marshes, that type of coastline. They're fine-grained sediments, silts and clays, pretty much deposited from rivers. They have broad, gentle seaward slopes. And like I said earlier, mangrove, salt marshes, shrubs, that's all important to these coastlines, protecting them from erosion. River damming, which reduces the sediment supply. The destruction of the vegetation cover. All are major causes of erosion of these types of coastlines, because the rivers, the damming of the rivers reduce the sediment supply, and the destruction of the vegetation cover expose the soil, the material to these waves. And just like the clay banks, the vegetation is very important during major storm events to protect the coastline, because it reduces the height and the flow speed of the waves. Sand dune coastlines. This is pretty much they're unconsolidated material, sand, some gravel, shells. It's considered a soft coastline, and it has a gentle seaward slope. That's broad, made of fine sand, and the grade, and then it steeps as it goes back shore. But really, these sand dune coastlines depend on the wave energy, and wind direction, because this is unconsolidated material, and wind and waves have a great effect on moving this material around. So these coastlines are basically have a cyclic erosion. Their accretion is longer than their erosion, and it goes in a cycle. But erosion influences these coastlines when the beach has an insufficient amount of time to replenish itself before the erosion takes place again, and that's how these beaches erode. So again, just like the last two, vegetation is very important to this coastline, because it protects the coastline, like we discussed before, reducing the height and the flow of the energy of the waves, but it also holds the soil together, and with the roots hold the soil together. So in major events, even small events, and wind, this vegetation is very important to these coastlines. And in like we were saying, in major events also, these dunes act as a barrier to what's behind the coastline. So it also protects, whatever's behind the coastline, these dunes. So, sand dunes and vegetation is the best natural protective measure against floods and tsunamis. And our last coastline is the sandy coastline. Basically what you think of a beach. Your Caribbean beaches, your East Coast beaches, your West Coast beach. This is what you think. This is what people think of when you think of a beach. These sandy coastlines. Again, this is unconsolidated. It's a soft coastline. It's unconsolidated material. It's sand comes from rivers, and material that erodes from headlands that gets transported along the coast. It's also material, broken coral and shells that come from offshore, that gets transported onshore. The beach slope varies from gentle to steep. But it's dependent on these natural processes that we discussed before: wind and waves, and storm surge, all that. When erosion occurs on these types of coastlines, you're losing the protective function of this coastline. You're losing and they're protecting the coastal habitat, especially like coral reefs and stuff. So the loss of vegetation, like coastal trees, when you lose this type of vegetation, you can't protect. The soil isn't protected from the wind anymore, and the waves, and you're losing the material. And then therefore you're exposing these coral reefs, which then can get destroyed. And these coral reefs, which in turn the coral reefs protect the coastline, because they also slow down these waves coming in, reduce the height and reduce the energy and the flow of these waves along the and then we'll reduce the erosion. So we talked pretty much about what causes erosion, what erosion is, what causes erosion, all the natural processes, the different types of coastlines, and how erosion affects them. You have your hard, just your rock, all the way down to your unconsolidated sandy beaches. We talked all about that. Now, let's talk about the effect of erosion, of coastal erosion. So, one effect is property values decrease, especially because if you're losing, as the coasts erode, you're losing more land, so which decreases the size of these properties. Therefore, the value goes down. You have homes lost. You have major storms like we experienced on the East Coast just recently. And as the coasts erode, you're losing everything that would protect these homes. So you have homes lost. You have tourism and jobs suffer. You have these coastal cities. A lot of them depend on tourism to survive. And if you're losing these beaches and these beaches and these coastlines are getting destroyed, your tourism suffers, which then leads into the local economies suffer, like we discussed going along with tourism. You have then you have storms, effects of coastal erosion. You have storms are more severe because, like I said before, we're losing what's on the coast uh, to protect these properties and homes. So, so the effects of these storms are more severe, causing property damage. And then you have the coastal ecology is affected, uh, such as you have vegetation, wildlife. All that's affected as these coasts erode. Wetlands, all that. Now, there are different solutions to coastal erosion. There's hard solutions and soft solutions. Hard solutions. Building items to protect the coastlines. So you have different items constructed on the beach and off the beach, on offshore, that would protect the coast and stop or reduce the rate of erosion. First thing, you have a groin. Groins are built perpendicular to the coastline, from the shoreline into the sea, pretty much, and they trap longshore sediment, therefore trying to replenish the beaches. These are good for sandy coasts. Disadvantage to a groin is it induces local scour. So besides replenishing the beaches, you're also it's giving the waves something to hit against and eat away at the coastal erosion, or eat away at the coast. You have erosion downdrift, just like I was saying. It's blocking material. As material is getting deposited, it's stopping when it hits the groin. So anything downdrift from the groin gets eaten away without getting replenished. And groins don't work by themselves. You can't build one groin and it would be okay. You need to build multiple structures, well, it's multiple groins or combination of structures for this to work. So it gets pretty costly. Seawalls. Seawalls are built parallel to the beach or to the shore, and it shelters the wave action. It protects cliffs from waves, and it's important for slope stability. It dissipates wave energy for sandy coastlines. Disadvantage of a seawall. Disadvantage. They scour the toe of the seawall. It doesn't promote beach stability. It's just pretty much holding everything back. But before, got ahead of myself. When I said it scours the toes of the seawall, so pretty much you have the seawall holding back the shore or protecting the shore. Well, the waves come in and it eats away from underneath. So you're still eroding underneath the seawall, but the seawall is there, so there's nothing, it's not being replenished. It's not letting it become replenished. It's just eating away from underneath the seawall. So then we have offshore breakwaters. These parallel the shore in the near shore zone and serves as a wave absorber. It reduces the wave energy in the lee direction and creates uh, and creates it creates and it protects, the shoreline behind it, and it influences longshore transport. So so pretty much the waves hit the breakwater, they slow them down, therefore it reduces the erosion on the shoreline, and the longshore transport, the accretion of the soil, of the material, is faster than the erosion taking place. These are submerged and are like artificial reefs. These are good for all coasts. And disadvantages? They're large, they're very large, and they're difficult to build. Therefore, they're costly. They need a special design, and they're vulnerable to large wave action. So, large of storm events, tsunamis, large storm surge, hurricanes, anything with large waves. They can't protect the coast. Then we have artificial headlands. These are prominent these promote natural beaches. They're easy to construct. They have little maintenance required. They're pretty much areas up gradient from the beach that promote natural erosion. They're there to naturally erode and replenish the beach down drift. Disadvantages: they're large. They can cause more erosion down drift, and they cause poor stability, and they have poor stability against large waves. So large waves can just wipe them out, pretty much. Here's some pictures. You have the groin. This is what the groin looks like. Seawalls. Then you have offshore breakwaters and artificial headlands. Now you have soft solutions. Soft solutions aim to dissipate the wave energy by mirroring natural forces and maintaining the natural topography of the coast. So these are all natural solutions to beach erosion. Before the hard solutions were man-made solutions. These are natural solutions. You have beach nourishment. Beach nourishment, is adding sand to the beaches, and they create wider beaches by artificially increasing the quantity of the sediment on the beach. Adding sand to the beach. The material for this nourishment could come from offshore sediment scoured or by dredging. So the materials can come from offshore. Regular maintenance is required for beach nourishment. Obviously, you have to keep replenishing as the beach gets eroded. You have to keep replenishing the beach. And it's not really economic in severe wave environments or where sediment transport is rapid, because obviously you have to you have to keep replacing the sediment faster. So it can get very pricey because you're doing it on a regular basis faster. So then next we have dune building and dune reconstruction. Like I mentioned when we talked about the sandy dune beaches, dunes protect the coast. The vegetation on the dunes um, slow down the rate of erosion. So, by building dunes and planting natural, native vegetation on these dunes, um, the vegetation absorbs the energy of the waves, slows down vegetation, and which goes because uh, the roots hold the sediment together, and which also protects against wind, not just waves. So so pretty much they build dunes, protect them in mesh matting to keep the sediment together. This, which also is related to the last one, which is uh, revegetation, coastal revegetation, which um, which is just replanting natural native plants along the coastlines, and this improves slope stability of the coastline. The roots hold the material together, causes more of a stable slope. Reduces the vegetation, like I said before, reduces the wave energy, slows down erosion on shore. And again, in estuary environments, it you have the low energy, slower erosion, um, opposed to the high energy if there was no vegetation, faster erosion. The one thing though about revegetation is that the vegetation may not take to the coastline, so you have that aspect of it too. If vegetation doesn't take to the coastline, then you have no vegetation to protect the coastline. So here are some pictures. You have beach nourishment, uh, adding soil to the beach, dune building and reconstruction here, and revegetation, planting vegetation along the coastline. Now, usually the hard and soft solutions aren't done specifically. Usually they're done in combination for the most economical reasons, and some of these work better together. So we have, so you have, you have your beach nourishment with your artificial headlands and groins. So you're 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 adding soil or you're adding sand, material to the coast, but you also built a headlands, so you're not just adding soil or material, it's also getting eroded and transported to that beach and getting stopped by the groin. so it adds up, it builds up the beach or the coastline. And then another example is revegetation, and then temporary offshore breakwaters and artificial reefs. So you're revegetating the coastline, but then you're also building offshore breakwaters and artificial reefs to slow down the waves and the revegetation, and slow down the waves, and the revegetation also will hold the soil together from wind and waves, protects, also slows down the energy of the sorry about that. Also slows down the energy of the waves. So most of these, so it's not just how you do you build hard solutions, you build soft solutions. It's most of the time they're built in combination with each other for the most economical and practical, in your most practical way to prevent or slow down coastal erosion. Oh, before we go to that slide, hard solutions, just as a summary, hard solutions can cause erosion. They could be expensive. They spoil the aesthetic aspect, and they're a low economic value. Soft solutions, they take time to become effective. So the general public usually thinks things aren't working because people usually want things done right away. But these soft take time to become effective solution, and maybe some. But soft also a common approach to solving coastal erosion, and slowing it down. Now, quickly, I'm going to talk about a case study. We're going to talk about Louisiana. So, Louisiana, obviously on the coast. You see here on the left how much of Louisiana has been eroded, since 1839, all the way projected to 2020. So, and you see here in red how much is gone of Louisiana. Okay, Louisiana. Half of the nation's wetlands were lost in the past 200 years. So Louisiana had half the nation's wetlands, and they were lost in the past 200 years, which equals about 300 million acres of Louisiana. Has been lost. Coastline has been lost, and which equals about 700 or 75 kilometers annually. So 75 kilometers of coastline, which Louisiana is, their coastline is mainly estuaries, wetlands, is lost annually due to erosion. The coast is lost to natural processes, like we discussed in this presentation, but also human processes too, such as dredging for canals, draining and filling agricultural land, and grazing land. So these wetlands, this vegetation area, which we discussed is very good to protect our wetlands, is being chopped down for agricultural purposes, which which we know if there's no vegetation, there's nothing to protect the coast, higher rate of erosion. So Louisiana's wetlands, their coastal wetlands, represent 40% of the U.S. wetlands. So almost half, a little less than half, of the entire U.S. wetlands exist in Louisiana. And 80% of them have been lost already. These wetlands extend 130 kilometers inland and 300 kilometers along the coast. That's a lot of wetlands. So, because, Louisiana, lots of wetlands, uh, experience a lot of coastal erosion. The USGS, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services, and other federal and state, and state entities, universities, they did a study of Louisiana. And they discovered that there's been a major shift in the Mississippi River, and this is significant to the demise of the wetlands. The accumulation of sediment on these coastlands has been dependent on the river, on the Mississippi River during the past 7,000 years. So for 7,000 years, the Louisiana coast has been dependent on the sediment coming from the Mississippi River. So what caused the shift in the Mississippi River and causing, high rate of erosion with less accumulation from the Mississippi River? You have the rise in sea level, which is eroding the coastline faster. You have the increase in catastrophic storms, hurricanes. And you have just the delta, the delta of the Mississippi River just eroding fast because of the loose sediment. You have then you have marine coastal processes. Eroding seaward, so they're eroding seaward of the deltas, and they're forming sandy headlands and barrier beaches. So so that's actually a good thing for this coast. That's actually protecting the coast because you have these. So as marine processes are eroding the shore, it's moving the material seaward, causing barrier islands to be built or to be created. which has a protective measure, separated from the coastline. You have a lagoon. And bay between the mainland and the barrier island. And the barrier island slows. It gets hit by these waves, slows the energy down, lessens the erosion on the mainland. But these barrier islands are also eroding. And they're eroding up to 20 meters per year. And by the end of the century, these islands will no longer exist. And the wetlands will be exposed again. These wetlands will be exposed to these high energy waves. And open marine processes. Another aspect affecting these coastlines is seasonal flooding. Before these levees were built, these levees were built in Louisiana, these coastlines would naturally flood, deposit sediment, and replenish the beach. But these levees are keeping out the sediment. These man-made levees are keeping out the sediment. Obviously, they're protecting the cities along the coast. So these coastlines aren't getting replenished. Like I said before, dredging in Louisiana, dredging for canals, building canals. You're removing soil, removing the coastline. Most of these canals are being built to protect these coastal cities from flooding, along with the levees. These canals will collect all this, as much storm water, storm surge as they can before they hit the cities. That's what also, along with the levees to protect the coast or the cities. Like I said before, they're removing, they're draining land, they're draining and destroying wetlands for agricultural reasons, which we're losing. That's another reason. As we're draining these areas, we're losing sediment along the coast. So these are all reasons why Louisiana is losing coastline. Now, to mitigate these wetland losses, it's a politically sensitive matter, because you want to save the coastline, but you also need to protect the people who live along the coast. You need all that. You need the agricultural land to feed the country, and the world. So it's very politically sensitive matter. So some solutions that work for everybody to protect these coastlines. You want a soft engineering solution would be through building these barrier islands up again. Barrier islands, like I said before, were a natural barrier to slow down these waves, which will slow down the coastal erosion and protect these wetlands. So as these barrier islands are eroding, you want to rebuild. A way to protect the coast is to rebuild these barrier islands. To with beach nourishment, as we discussed before. You can distribute, so as you're dredging these canals, you can distribute them onto these islands, the material onto the islands to build them up again. You can create navigation channels to allow the Mississippi River to erode, to erode naturally and replenish the coastlines. With all the man-made, man-made items along the Mississippi River, dams and whatnot, it's affecting the replenishment of the coastline. Well, you can build channels that would allow the sediment to naturally replenish the coastline. And through natural cycles, like they used to, like with the natural flooding. Though, then you can also go with man-made items such as seawalls and breakwaters, but they're pretty expensive, and as we discussed, it's 300 kilometers of coastline, so that can get pretty expensive. I mean, and obviously, any solution that gets that is done, it's going to affect local, the local communities, the agricultural. You have all the oil industry, so not everybody is going to be happy. So you have to weigh the factors of, you want to lose the coastline, or you want to save the coastline and affect some of the local industry. So it's, like I said, it's a politically sensitive matter. But Louisiana is losing coastline at a very fast rate, and so you want to consider. So there's a lot to consider when. There's a lot to consider this matter. But here's my references, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation. This basic view. It was a basic view of coastal erosion, your natural processes, your man-made, your human factors. Then we talked about you talked about the types of coastlines there are, and then we talked about the effects of coastal erosion, mainly not ecologically, and also to humans. Then we talked about the different types of solutions: hard solutions, and hard solutions, which are man-made solutions, and soft solutions, which are natural solutions to slow down or eliminate coastal erosion. So this is my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.